So today on Project Shop, we got a bunch of wire we're gonna strip and a bunch of other scrap, but mainly we're gonna focus on wire and transformers first, because you know that's where all the good stuff is at. We do have a bin with some miscellaneous stuff in it we're gonna have to sort. This is just like a mixed bag of scrap, basically. We've got some batteries, there's some aluminum, small batteries, ballast, transformers, wires, light fixtures. There's another little pile of wire over there. So we got a empty dump table, an empty barrel, 2 bags for waste. We got Oliver over here on deck for moral support, and we're gonna have ourselves a little stripping party. Now, in the last video, we did a little over $1,000, like $1,060. Those numbers were actually really lowballed. I haven't even sold that scrap yet. We have it sitting out here. And then I went and picked up more scrap. This wire, that bin, and the bin on the other side. So we have some more transformers from Northern Lights. And those light fixtures right there, those things are actually extruded aluminum. We'll get into that maybe later today. But what I'm hoping is we can turn that $1,000 load today maybe into like a $2,500 load. That's more of my liking. So we're gonna get set up over here. I'm gonna put the time lapse on real quick while we sort some wires and get dialed in, see what we got in these bins, and then maybe later we'll clean the table off. Ready to rock and roll? Yeah. All right, we're gonna start with this absolute mess of spaghetti. And I'm gonna show you how I do this relatively quick. So ultimately what I like to do is just pick a color and run through the whole pile, picking a color of the same size, and it makes it go much easier, because if you try to sit here and untangle this, it's just a nightmare. I just grab a piece. Let's say we're gonna start with, well, that's a little thicker. I wanna start with this really thin stuff. So, start with this tangled mess right here. We're just gonna start with this red wire, okay? We're gonna hunt down all the red wire. See this mess? I just had a pair of dikes. Oh, thank you. So I'll just clip an end. I don't worry about trying to untangle it. And I'm just gonna let the machine untangle it. And then what I do is once it starts pulling up on the pile, I stop it with the clutch, cut it, and then just continue on. First, you gotta check the machine. See if we're dialed in for this size wire. That looks good as a one-passer. Now I don't discriminate. If I'm pulling it up and there's another different color wire right in my hand, I'm just gonna feed it in. But overall, it's good to try to just stick with one color. And once you remove that from the pile, you'll be liberating and untangling a bunch of other wires. Like this stuff here, I just open that up like that. Usually if you just grab that in the middle, make a cut, and start pulling, you're good to go. That cut it? Okay, let me see. Look like that. Problem might be We're not pushing hard enough. We're centered. That wire is really thin. That's it. Give that another twist. A little hard. Okay, as you can see, I got most of the red. Some of that wire went through and jumped off. I had to run it through this machine, like this piece here. Some of it got stripped, most of it just got flattened. If the wire jumps off, as you can see, these rollers are worn out. I mean, I've sent miles of wire through this machine. If it jumps off the roller here and gets flattened back here, this machine won't strip it again. Some of the bigger stuff it might, you know, this hole. But anything on these first couple rollers where it cuts it here and flattens it here, if it gets flattened, it just rolls up out of the groove and won't cut it on a second pass. We have to run it through this machine here, which I'll show you. We'll go ahead and trim these edges. Now this machine here, this machine I know for a fact was made in China. I can tell by the build quality and the original motor that said made in China on it. This machine was made in America and it's not cheap. This machine here, this model is over $3,000. So because it has all these blades, this thing will recover all the copper. Okay. Need to give it a little more. Now this machine, it don't take much, just a little turn, and you're gonna go from cutting it. I mean, that's probably good. Matter of fact, I think that's good. Here, open that up. Yeah, where's that other piece? Let me back that off, otherwise we'll be making needles. Was that the piece? You got more? Oh, it missed a spot. This thing is a fine line between making yeah, that cut it off. Between making needles and not. All right, we got a little nugget in there. I got something I got to take care of real quick. I'm gonna let Oliver run through some of the spaghetti. Now I pretty much ran through all of the red wire of that size. That wire is actually thicker size, which I'm pretty sure that the machine is dialed for. It's just, I was running this hole. We're gonna have to switch over to this hole when we get to that. And we'll let him have a little fun with the machine. Hopefully he won't lose a finger. And then we'll get on to this bigger stuff. And then we have some BX and Romex and a bunch of little stragglers here. I say we just strip it all. Get all this wire out of here, get as much money out of this as we can possibly get. Hopefully we can get to a $2,500 goal by the end of the day. I think if we process all this wire and process the transformers, we'll be pretty much there. And then I got some other select things we can do later to add to it. So yeah. All right, man, we got a nice little empty spot where that spaghetti was and a nice drum of copper. Now it's all jammed down in there. I'm not sure how much is in there, but we stripped just about every bit of that small spaghetti stuff except for that, which I am going to start a bucket. Let me see. Yeah, this is all the sweepings and whatnot off the floor. I'm gonna go ahead and start a bucket for stuff that eventually I'm gonna granulate or run through a granulator and a water sluice. I have a whole nother bin over there. And then all the little tiny small stuff from now on, I'm just gonna set aside for a rainy day. And we're going to get the granulator and the sluice going. I actually want to, I've mentioned this before, I want to turn this press sideways, which I've actually had this thing mounted sideways on here before, back when I used to do, I fired all my help and I just was doing transformers by myself. I was literally running both those presses at the same time. Back when I had pneumatics, I could start that press, and while it was running its cycle, I could knock out the core, and I would just feed, and I did everything myself, man. So, you know, when in doubt, fire everybody and just do it all yourself. But that thing will turn sideways very easily, and it's just a way of rearranging. This table is actually really cool because it's basically a 4x8, but it's just 2 I-beams on the top, and you can configure this table any way you want. So I plan on putting my granulator over here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go through this pile right here and do some BX cable, and I'll show you how I like to do that with my vise and a drill. Okay, the best way I found to do this type of wire is put it in a vise. You want to do as many as you can fit in there at once. I'll show you how to actually start this with the BX here when it has the jacket on it. And then basically, you always want to have an even end. You want to make sure your ends are very even when you start. You're going to chuck it in your drill, crank down on it, pull a little bit, and back it out while keeping tension. And it literally straightens it right out. Then the last thing you want to do, depending on, most of the time these are going to be all different lengths on this side. Being that these are the same length, this is the side I decide to put in the wire stripper. You want to bend that back straight so that you're not trying to put a 90-degree in the machine. And then you can come over here. Then you just run it through your wire strippers. Now, you've seen that last video, I was running both machines at the same time. That just shows you right there the actual difference in how fast that machine is compared. It's literally, I think it's 3 or 4 times faster. And it's all just the gearing. I could crank this up a little bit. What I'd like to do with this is separate this and put a pulley here. And then we can just add it to this machine, because I got 2 extra pulleys down here, and this is what I'm thinking. We could use 1 pulley for this machine, speed this up, and then what I'd like to do is add a pincher on the backside like this one. If we can add a second roller to this and speed it up, and then add another belt up to something that'll grab the insulation and separate it, man, you want to talk about blowing through some copper wire? We'll be on some next level stuff over here. Even though this machine is slow and needles the bigger wire up, on the solid core it works really great, as you can see. And I could feed 3 or 4 in there at the same time. Matter of fact, I'll show you here in a second. What I really like about this machine is the fact that you could do multiple 500s or multiple whatever. It needs a little more power. You know, it doesn't necessarily like it, especially if you're cranking down on it. But I think with a couple modifications, this machine could actually be a formidable stripper. And in my opinion, it is. I mean, this thing does things this machine can't do, like multiple wires at once. And when you flatten the wire, this machine will get it out. This machine will also one-pass Romex. This machine will do it too, but you got to really, one, have it flat. You can't have kinks in it because it kind of messes it up. And wow, we got flat spots in our blade. Actually, I don't use that blade that much. I got to get my lathe fixed so I can get these off and on the thing. Over here, I'm pretty sure this is, yeah, these are the actual guards. Everybody says, oh, you should put guards on your machine. These are actually all the original guards. And I have a stack of brand new blades. What do you got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 blades. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 blades. 8 brand new blades that I've never used. They've just been sitting down there, soaked in oil. I don't think I need to use them. I think I could just put them on the lathe and hit them with a piece of carbide. I've sharpened them before with a file and a carbide, but you don't get a consistent, a lathe is going to give you a consistent, and it's going to be perfectly round. When you don't have these perfectly round, and you either have flat spots like I see there's like a little chip. What happens is you get it dialed in, and then that flat spot, it'll be perfect cut, and then there'll be a little spot where the insulation doesn't get cut. Now, what I would do with this blade with the chip, I could put that on the lathe, cut it down to get rid of the chip, and then it's sharp and round. It'll be smaller than the rest of the blades, and probably not a good blade for here. I'd just move it over to this big hole, because over here, it really doesn't matter, you know? It's a smaller diameter. Actually, it's better a smaller diameter, because when you put that big wire in there, it opens this thing up so much. It's actually better to have a small blade. Anyway, Oliver's doing that. Let me show you guys what we were doing. We did this in another video. Now, I don't know if this is going to be worth it, but I did some of this like speaker wire or extension cord, whatever you want to call it. In another video, I literally had like a spool of it. It worked out really well. I think it was like you either doubled your money or something. And it was relatively easy. Relatively easy stripping. So, it's kind of worth it. So, what I did, just get a little start to separate it. Now this one is number 2. This is actually number 2 because it's tin coated. So I'm running it. thicker stuff right here. Now, last time with that other wire, I actually threw that right in with the bright and shiny. Because I had a bunch of it and it kind of just went. This stuff here, I'm going to do the same thing. And that looks like bright and shiny to me. Oh man, I needled that up. It's the only problem with this stuff. You don't want to needle it because now a lot of it gets stuck down in here in the actually insulation. Hey, start unraveling that BX over there. Crazy, I hear people say, oh, my yard buys that welding cable is bright and shiny. Man, I haven't found a yard down in South Florida that'll take it as that. But in the beginning, I really don't deal with many yards because in the beginning, I kind of sniffed out all the shady yards by taking a whole bunch of weighted buckets that I had weighed on multiple scales to multiple different yards. And the only yard that didn't straight up blatantly rip me off was this place called Powerline Scrap. It's now called Sun City Scrap, I believe. Still the same owners, just they rebranded it. But they were the only ones that didn't rip me off. And they were the only ones that didn't have digital scales. And it wasn't they were messing with the digital scales, is they were taking it out of my 5-gallon buckets. I had 40 pounds of number 2 copper from the transformers inside 5-gallon buckets. So they would take it out of my 5-gallon bucket and dump it into one of their bins that had a tear weight on it. And literally every single one of them got me for either 2 pounds. One dude, I think he got me for like 5 or 6 pounds, man. And that was it, man. You know. And the one guy, I was like, hey, what's your price? He was like 10 cents lower than the guy down the street. And I was like, hey, you know, the guy down the road is paying this. Will you match it? And he goes, yeah, I'll match it. But then he proceeded to rip me off for 5 pounds of copper. So you really got to watch these people. A lot of times you see me weighing my scrap. It's a good thing to do, to have like a packing sheet and know exactly what you got when you go into the scrap yard. I normally, like for the most part, I only do that when like I'm trying to see, you know, if I set a goal for myself. Now this stuff is number 2 that I'm peeling now. It's tin coated. Yeah, I only do that when I set myself a goal, or, you know, I want to know how much I'm making, or, you know, if I'm in the middle of shooting a video. But it's not really necessary for where I go because, you know, them guys, I've been dealing with them for years because they're honest. We have a good relationship. I mean, there's so many horror stories out there that I hear in the comments about scrap yards and their shady business practices. It's really sad, man. I almost want to open up my own yard. I don't know exactly what all that would entail, but it would be really nice if people just dropped copper off to me and I didn't have to go get it. Then I could just stay here and focus on processing it. And all right. I'll show you what the deal is with the BX. Now I don't get a lot of this stuff. I used to get a ton of it. So what I like to do, same thing. This is actually some thicker stuff right here. You want to put a bunch in here at once. I'm just going to show you one for the moment. First thing you want to do is try to straighten this out the best you can, right? And if there's any kinks, you want to twist it. You can actually unlock it basically, right? And if it's tight, these things are like a Chinese finger trap. Okay, what you want to do is give it a jerk from the front, because it'll compress it and kind of open it up. If you pull it from the back side, you know, a lot of times it'll just come off if it's not all messed up. But if it's all messed up and twisted up in there or whatnot, you know, you got to go through and open it up like this. It's just going to tighten up on you. You give it a jerk from up here. This one's tight. This is going to cause an issue. I don't know where it got kinked. Oh, I can feel it down here. It's really tight down here. What it is that plastic's in there. There you go. If it's not all messed up and you got really nice, good, brand new coils, you can do really long runs. But typically, because I don't like to have, and this goes back to me doing this by myself, I don't like to have massive amounts of wires like over 10 feet long. It just becomes an absolute mess. Now, you don't have to really worry about the plastic that's on there. Just pull it tight. Oh, that's what happens when you don't tighten it up enough. Oh, got a piece of plastic in there. Yeah, make sure your drill is clean. Really crank down on that thing. And then you'll literally see it straighten out. It really is amazing how it'll straighten itself out like that. And then again, bend it up. This is some really thick stuff right here. I did a video years ago called How to Hand Strip Copper Wire Like a Pro. And that's where I debuted how I like to use the knife, like a stainless fillet knife rather than a razor blade. I actually show you how to strip burnt copper wire. Sometimes I've had wire so burnt that even when you strip it, the copper is like stuck to the insulation. It's like the insulation melted to the copper. I'll show you how to get that off like butter. Like it wasn't even on there. Now, these things here are sometimes a pain to start after you cut them. There we go. Now this one might be tough because it's got that cardboard. You really should be wearing gloves because this aluminum can get sharp. Look, that's got an aluminum ground in there. Huh. There you go. I don't know if I ever had this with the this green wrapping on the outside. I wonder, I know that probably means something. What's that mean, Oliver? Did they teach you about that in school?
What?
The green wrapping on the BX?
No.
wire is really tough. That paper's not wanting to let go. Years ago, I ran a bunch of BX through the wire stripper or the granulator. And my sluice, I was able to separate the copper from the aluminum and the insulation. And the insulation and the aluminum was a little tough, but I was starting to get it dialed in where it would come apart, or it would separate it. That's some tough stuff right there, man. You really gotta unlock this stuff. Or just throw the whole thing in a granulator and be done with it. You gotta make sure your granulator can separate out the aluminum from the insulation. I'm glad I don't do much of this. It's not very fun. It's amazing how if these things got paper or they got plastic on it, it doesn't matter. Unwinding it kind of undoes everything. And the more you put in there, it's repetition. You're doing the same. You want to do as much of the same process at once. You get into like a rhythm, and then if you got two people, this goes really fast. Is that all the BX we got, man? Look at that monster BX. Look at that stuff, man. That's got some big nuggets in there. Look at the size difference. I want to do BX like that all day long. Here. Go ahead, Oliver. Have fun with that. So I really need to come over here and box this in, because this wire gets everywhere. And what I want to do is kind of box this into and make it a funnel coming out, so the wire tends to come out and roll back up a lot. And I'm sure that's the original guards might help with that a little bit, but still, even with the original guards, copper would get stuck down in there. Oh, did that come from underneath? Yeah. Copper goes down underneath and does all kinds of weird stuff, man. I mean, if there's like a nook or cranny where a piece of copper can go, it's gonna find its way in. Like, it'll literally wrap around and then find its way through that little tiny hole right there and cause all kinds of havoc. And yes, one day I will get underneath this thing, and I basically need to pick this up off of here and clean out and then redo this. I need to put a better plate here. and something I can put my vise. My vise that's attached down there now. It's another great thing about this table. I can put that vise anywhere around this table. But I want to be able to have it so it slides in and out of here. It's nice to have a vise right here. So like we could be doing this stuff literally right here. What you got? Look at that big copper, dude.
Hey, he said, do you buy copper wire? I got a wire that,
What do you got?
it's not much, but I thought maybe you can see what it's worth to you.
That's about the biggest BX I've ever seen, dude. Come on, let's double team it. Nice. Wow, that one's definitely worth it. That might not even fit in the drill. Make sure you gotta cut those ends so they're even. Here. Now cut more than that so you can strip back the other side. Cut it down over here a little bit. Yeah, right there. All right, that'll untwist pretty easy. That's too big for the drill. So in that case, best thing you can do, cut it in half or like 6 foot length. Get your plastic off, grab 2 pieces and pull it from the middle, and it literally just kind of undoes itself for the most part. This is actually some stiff #1 wire. Man, that's about the nicest BX ever. That's not solid core, that's some thick #1. Man, that stuff stripped real nice. I'll do that kind of BX all day long. That was actually #2, but you can see how these machines can work together. You set one up, say you got a lot of that wire, you know, that you want to strip, you could run it through this machine first, open it up, and then, you know, have this machine just set up for actually stripping the small strands. This is some nice stuff here, man. I almost want to keep this for extension cord. But, you know, Copper King's hungry, man. We got to feed the beast. Stuff is real spongy. Hold that. Hold on. As long as you don't let it tangle. That stuff will undo itself real easy. Since we don't have a lot of it, we're just gonna let this slide with the bright and shiny. First time I ever sold copper wire, I stripped some big, thick cable. It was 480 volt. Well, we were using it for 480 cable. There was a bunch of damaged stuff from my old job that I had replaced with new stuff, and they were going to throw it out. And this was right at the beginning of me realizing how much that stuff was worth, because I remember that company throwing out tons of wire when they would re-spool the trucks. This stuff went right in the garbage, man. But I went to the scrap yard. I thought I was going to get bright and shiny. He paid me number 2 copper. And I left. I looked at the ticket. I called the guy back. I'm like, hey, man, I was just there and sold you some wire. You gave me a number 2 copper price. I'm like, that's not bright and shiny? He's like, nope. He says, yeah, you brought in the welding cable stuff. That's what they called it, welding cable. It was really thick. It was way thicker than that. And it's number 2. That's what he told me. It's too thin. They lose it when they melt it, but we'll just shove it down in the middle of this drum, and nobody will know the wiser. Anyway, we're doing a pretty good job. We're about to get on to the big stuff. Well, not the big stuff. This isn't that big, but still got a couple little things I'm going to mill through right there while the machine's dialed for that small size. And then we're going to step it up. I'm pretty sure it's probably lunchtime. I'm kind of getting hungry, so that's going to be a good indication that it is 12:17. Yes, I am starving. All right, we're going to hit lunch, and then we'll be back, strip some more wire. Hopefully we'll get some transformers on the table, get some number 2 in the bucket. We got little number 2. It probably doesn't even weigh, but Christmas lights. There's a separate category for that. I'm just going to throw that with the number 2 because it's only a little bit. got some really thick solid core. We're gonna strip that. Jeez. This stuff here is too thick for the drill. All right, we made an absolute mess. Couple little trinkets in here still. I'm just gonna throw them up in this drum. When we clean the table off, I got some number 2 to strip. And that's gonna be it. Got almost probably a couple 100 pounds in there. I don't know what we started with, but I know I paid about 450 bucks for all that wire and the 2 bins of aluminum and whatnot, and the batteries and all this stuff that's in that drum and those transformers. So I'm pretty sure we got our money back here. We'll clear a path, and I'll weigh this real quick, and then I'm taking a break. Say 228.
Yeah.
Okay, I wound up taking a break, but we have 228 pounds, and I'm pretty sure that drum is like 28 pounds. So basically we got 200 pounds of bright and shiny copper. I think I get 270. So that's $540 we can add to our total we have already. So we're at about 1,600. Nice. So I got a couple more things that's pretty much ready to go that I just need to weigh up. And then I'm gonna load this stuff on my trailer, hook it to my truck, probably take it home with me so I can go to Miami first thing in the morning. But as I load it, I'll reweigh it because I'm probably gonna add a bunch of stuff to all of this. And I have updated prices. So I'm thinking by the end of the night, we should be well over $2,000. I'll tell you where we're going, right to the scrap yard. Watch it. Look, it's dancing. You ever seen your copper dance before? Wow. Park this across the street for a moment. Dang. Little mini forklift is awesome.